Have you ever felt like you're pouring your heart and soul into a relationship, striving to make the other person happy, only to end up feeling empty? You do everything you can, but it feels like love is never enough. Why does this happen? Why are some people loved easily and effortlessly, while others have to practically beg for attention and affection? If you can relate to this feeling, know that it's not a coincidence. If, as a child received warmth and care only for certain achievements, he begins to believe that without effort, no one will love him. This leads to the fact that in adult relationships, he unconsciously chooses partners for whom he constantly needs to prove his worth. For such people, love becomes a job where you need to be comfortable, try to please, be afraid of making mistakes, and earn recognition. This creates a feeling of emotional instability, anxiety, and fear of loss, because the slightest step to the side can lead to rejection. Worse, a person accustomed to conditional love often unconsciously rejects those who are ready to give him warm, healthy relationships. Such partners seem boring to him, not the ones, because his subconscious is looking for a familiar dynamic of fighting for attention. As a result, he attracts people who amplify his feeling of deficiency, creating a situation where he has to constantly seek love. The stronger his inner fear of being unnecessary, the more he becomes attached to emotionally unavailable partners. But these scenarios don't arise out of thin air. They are formed on the basis of childhood experience. If parents were cold or emotionally unavailable, the child got used to the feeling of lack of love, and in adulthood begins to unconsciously reproduce this feeling. Some children learn to hide their needs in order not to experience the pain of rejection. They become endlessly caring, sacrifice their desires, suppress emotions, and eventually grow up into adults who are afraid to express their feelings, fearing that they will not be accepted. Others, on the contrary, are constantly looking for confirmation of their importance, cling to partners, become dependent on other people's attention. They are afraid to be alone because loneliness seems to them a confirmation that they are not worthy of love. Such mechanisms are deeply rooted in the psyche and control a person, even if he does not realize it. Until these attitudes remain unchanged, a person will meet the same partners in different phases and live the same scenarios. But the main question is it possible to change this program? Is it possible to break this circle and stop experiencing pain in relationships? The answer is yes, but for this, you need to look deeper into yourself in order to heal your attitudes about love. It is not enough to simply look for the right partner. You need to realize what beliefs guide your choices and change them from within. It is important to understand that love is not a reward and not a test. It is a natural state in which there should be no fear of lack or struggle for attention. But to truly let love into your life, you need to meet those parts of yourself that you used to hide. After all, they create your reality, even if you don't realize it. Our deepest fears, traumas, and beliefs shape our world. And that means that to change this world, you need to change your inner state. Often what we call problems in relationships is actually a reflection of those parts of us that we don't want to see. These parts, hidden in the shadows, control us, forcing us to relive the same situations over and over again. The shadow is those aspects of our personality that we once rejected and hid in the unconscious. It includes repressed emotions, fears, wounds, and beliefs that we don't want to acknowledge, but which still continue to affect our lives. And until we accept our shadow, it continues to manifest in our relationships, forcing us to face the pain we are trying to run away from over and over again. The shadow is formed from an early age when society, parents, or significant figures make it clear that some of our feelings, desires, or manifestations are unacceptable. To avoid the pain of rejection, we learn to hide these parts of ourselves, pushing them into the unconscious. A person who, in childhood, hears that showing weakness is shameful in adulthood may suppress their emotions, fearing to appear vulnerable. If a child was not taught to express anger, he will either suppress it or unconsciously attract partners who provoke him to aggression. But the problem is that what we reject in ourselves does not disappear. On the contrary, it continues to control our lives, only in a hidden, destructive form. These repressed emotions come out through relationships, creating situations that force us to confront our own shadow. This isn't just bad luck in choosing partners. There's a hidden reason why your relationships play out the same way. Today, you'll discover a truth that will forever change your perspective on love and free you from suffering. The problem isn't that you're unlucky or that you're surrounded by cold and indifferent people. The problem is deeper. It's in how you perceive yourself. If a person deep down feels that he is not worthy of love, he will attract partners who confirm this fear. If he is afraid of being abandoned, he will unconsciously choose someone who is emotionally unavailable. Thus, our shadow creates the reality in which we are forced to live our pain again and again. We project our fears, not realizing that the root of the problem is within us. But meeting with your shadow is not a punishment, but an opportunity for growth. Any difficult situation in relationships gives a chance to see yourself deeper and heal those parts that we used to reject. However, many people do not want to recognize their shadow because it requires an honest look at themselves. It is easier to blame circumstances, partners, or fate than to admit that we ourselves create our reality. But as soon as a person stops running away from his shadow and starts working with it, his relationships begin to change. He no longer attracts partners who cause pain because there is no longer a hidden belief within him that he deserves it. Awareness of your shadow is a step to freedom. This is an opportunity to stop being a hostage of old scenarios and start building relationships in a different way. When a person accepts all his sides, both light and dark, he stops depending on external approval and begins to experience a genuine feeling of inner peace. And this is the key to stopping attracting painful relationships and starting to build healthy ones. But recognizing the shadow is only the beginning of the path. The next step is consciously changing your perception of yourself and love, creating new, healthier internal settings. To change your relationship with love, it is not enough to simply understand that the problem is within you. You need to consciously work with these beliefs, rebuilding your world so that it no longer recreates scenarios. The first step to change is to be aware of the recurring scenarios in your life. Think about what patterns are repeated in your. If in most of your relationships you had to fight for attention or prove your worth, then there is a belief within you that love needs to be earned. If you often encounter emotionally unavailable partners, this may indicate your inner fear of intimacy or fear of being rejected. When you see these patterns, it is important not only to recognize them, but also to understand what deep beliefs are behind them. The love you receive will always be a reflection of your love for yourself. So the second step is to stop looking for confirmation of your worth in the outside world. People treat us the way we allow them to treat us. If there is a feeling inside us that we are not good enough, the world will confirm this idea. To stop this, start observing your inner dialogue. How do you talk to yourself? Do you support yourself or criticize yourself? Do you notice your achievements or only your mistakes? How you treat yourself determines how others will treat you. Therefore, it is important to stop waiting for love from the outside and start giving it to yourself. The next step is to learn to accept your shadow, your inner fears, doubts, and insecurities. You can't just ignore or suppress them. You need to recognize and realize that they are part of you, but they don't define your value. Instead of fighting yourself, try asking yourself, what am I afraid of in love? Why do I choose people who confirm my fears? Awareness of these mechanisms is the first step to changing them. The deeper you accept yourself, the less you will need to play roles or try to meet someone else's expectations. True love begins with unconditional self-acceptance. The next important step is to let go of attachment to the pain of the past. Your past disappointments, hurts, and betrayals should not define your future. Often we unconsciously hold on to pain because it seems familiar and safe to us. But as long as you hold on to it, you continue to attract people and situations that confirm it. Forgiveness is not an excuse for the actions of others, but a release of yourself from the burden that prevents you from moving forward. Allow yourself to let go of the past, realizing that it does not determine your ability to love and be loved. The next step is to take full responsibility for your love. Until you recognize this crucial point, you'll keep searching for love in the wrong places, attracting partners who only confirm your inner fears and wounds. But there's a way to break this vicious cycle. Stay until the end, and you'll learn how to stop being a victim of repeated disappointments, how to attract healthy and loving relationships, and most importantly, how to feel love without the fear of losing it. This means stopping waiting for someone to make you happy and starting to fill yourself from within. When you stop looking for someone to close your inner emptiness, you start building relationships from abundance, not from scarcity. This changes everything: your boundaries, your choice of partners, your expectations of love. Stop being afraid to be yourself. When you no longer try to please, when you don't play roles, when you are not afraid to seem too emotional or too vulnerable, you start attracting people who accept you as you are. Learn to love without fear. The fear of being rejected, the fear of attachment, the fear of loss, all of this creates tension that destroys relationships. When you replace fear with trust, when you stop clinging to control and expectations, love becomes easy, natural, and free. Start radiating love. People who radiate love attract it into their lives. Love is not about taking, but about giving. If you enter a relationship with a feeling of lack, with a desire to fill emptiness, this creates dependence, not love. Instead, start filling yourself with joy, care, and attention. The more love there is inside you, the more it appears around you. When you stop desperately looking for it, it comes by itself in the most unexpected, natural forms. Let go of expectations and control. When you expect your partner to behave in a certain way, to meet your expectations, this creates a tension. Love cannot exist in a rigid framework. The more you try to control it, the less space remains for real feelings. Allow relationships to develop naturally without trying to fit them to your expectations. When you accept people as they are, not as you want them to be, love becomes genuine. Love is not only about relationships with a partner, it's a way of life. It manifests itself in how you take care of yourself, how you treat others, how you enjoy the moments of life. When you learn to see beauty in the little things, to be grateful for what you have, to share warmth with others, love ceases to be something external. It becomes part of you. But most importantly, love is already inside you. It's not something you need to look for, not something that depends on others. It's what you become. As soon as you start loving yourself unconditionally, the fear of loss disappears. Loneliness ceases to frighten, and inner emptiness is filled with warmth. And then the world changes, relationships become harmonious, and life becomes full of love, natural. And so we have come to the end of this video. Now you have the keys to understanding why your relationships are exactly as they are, and how you can change this scenario. Love is not a struggle, not pain, not a constant desire to earn someone else's attention. Love begins inside you with how you treat yourself. When you stop seeking confirmation of your worth from the outside, when you accept all aspects of your personality and learn to fill yourself from within, the world begins to respond to you in a completely different way. You no longer attract those who make you suffer. You are not afraid to be yourself. You stop needing love, and that is when it comes to you easily and naturally. If this video was useful for you, be sure to support it with a like. Share what thoughts caught you the most. Your feedback incredibly motivates me to create new content, and it is very important for me to know what topics resonate with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos about psychology, philosophy, and conscious life. And remember, the love you have been looking for all your life has always been inside you. Open it and the world will change. See you in new videos. Nothing happens by chance in love. Every encounter, every disappointment, every emotion you experience in a relationship has a deep inner cause. If your relationships follow the same pattern, it's not because you're unlucky, but because there's a specific model within you that governs your choices and reactions. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These words are especially true when it comes to love. Our unconscious creates specific behavior patterns that we repeat over and over without even noticing it. If you often feel like you're giving more than you receive in a relationship, or that you have to fight for love and attention, it's not just a series of misfortunes. It's the result of internal beliefs that subtly determine the kind of people you attract and how you interact with them. The relationships we find ourselves in are not a random set of events. They are formed by our deepest beliefs about ourselves and about love. Subconsciously, we attract those who confirm our fears, wounds, and insecurities. If deep down you believe you are not worthy of unconditional love, you will involuntarily choose partners who make you feel that way. If you are haunted by the fear of being abandoned, you will attract people who constantly keep their distance or suddenly disappear. But this mechanism doesn't just work in choosing a partner. It affects how you behave in relationships. If you are used to earning love, you will do everything you can to please, even to your own detriment. If you are afraid of a rejection, you will suppress your true feelings and desires just to avoid conflict. Thus, you unconsciously recreate an emotional environment in which you once felt vulnerable. Your reactions, experiences, and even pain are not just consequences of difficult relationships. They are a reflection of your inner state, We attract not just people, but reflections of our fears. And until these beliefs remain unchanged, the script of your love life will repeat again and again. But where do these internal